Hi guys, hope you've all been keeping well. This was a 2,800 point game, which my good friend Nat agreed to undergo with me. As many of you know, I'm taking part in the tournament in Hong Kong next month, so I wanted to make sure that my list was up to scratch. So Nat agreed to put together the filthiest, uncomped Skaven army that he possibly could. You can see there the lists and what he came up with. Must apologise before I begin. There are some substitute models used in this game. Didn't have all of the required models yesterday when we played the game. They weren't all together. So apologies for that. Quick look at the army lists for you there. I'll leave them on the screen for just a moment and then we'll begin. Okay, so here we are in deployment. You can see Nat there in his minion t-shirt, which I like a lot. So I'll just talk you through Nat's army first and then my own. So just here we've got the gutter runners. No 12-inch gap for them to fit in that's worth having. Obviously big game, so not a lot of space for that. So they've just elected to come behind here in case I charge them dangerous terrain on the fence there if the chariot decides to go over it. There are the giant rats. The first Helpet Abomination is here. The Warp Lightning Cannon here, a unit of slaves just here, another Helpet Abomination, and then the Plague Monks with the Plague Priest and the Furnace. This unit has got the Plague banner on it. This is an open list game, so Nat knows what I've got and he knows what I've got. Then behind here, it's hard to see, but there's a Warp Lightning Cannon deployed in the building, because you can deploy in buildings. War Machines can't move into them, but they can deploy in them. Then a small unit of Clan Rats. This holds the Grey Seer and the BSB. And then a couple of Poison Wind Mortars. Big unit of Clan Rats over here as well. And unit of Slaves here. One thing I should mention, in this game, we were playing one of the simple scenarios of the tournament that we're going to, where it's essentially a battle line, with the exception that you have to alternate your deployment side to side. So if you begin with a deployment on this side, then your next deployment is on this side, then this side, then this side, and so on. So that's Nat's army. On my own, we've got a Chaos Chariot here, and then 4 Beasts of Nurgle, unit of Furies, Skull Cannon, another unit of Furies, the Exalted Hero on a Demonic Mount, Demon Prince, 29 Chaos Warriors, and just there at the end you can see the Chaos Sorcerer, another unit of Beasts, unit of Plague Drones, unit of Furies, and then another Skull Cannon there. So that's deployment. Okay, so Nat got to go first. Not a lot exciting happening in Nat's movement phase, of course. We're right at the start of the game. Gutter runners have come from behind the fence to get out of the arc of vision of the chariot. Nice and smart. Rat Dart's moved forward. The Helpet Abomination has sort of shuffled a very average distance. Nothing wrong with that. Warp Lightning Cannon staying where it is. The slaves can't march through the river, so they've walked up to the river. It's turned out to be a necrotic ooze, so they've got poison. This Helpet's gone over the river, and then everything else over here has just sort of lumbered forwards. Before I forget to mention, I'll just talk you through the scenery, because I haven't done so yet. This is a Kemrian quicksand, so bad news for anything that's monstrous. You fail a dangerous terrain in there and you're monstrous, you're dead. This was a sinister statue, which on the roll of a 1, 2, 3 belts out D6 strength 4 hits. Ordinary building, ordinary hill. And this is the forest where, if I forget what it's called, but if you cast a spell at any unit inside it, or a unit inside it casts a spell, it does D6 strength 4 hits on the unit, and then it shuffles off 2d6 inches in a random direction. So, what's happened in Nat's phase? Well, on the magic, he rolled a 5 and a 1, so he's got 6 power dice, I've got 5 dispel dice, and then I channeled. But he managed to cast Howling Warp Gale with 6 dice. He rolled 30. He rolled 26 on 6 dice. I wasn't so bothered about this. It's an inconvenience. I do have quite a lot of flyers. I've got 3 units of Furies, 1, 2, 3, and then I've got the Demon Prince and the Plague Drones. But I didn't want to be using my Dispel Scroll at this stage, and I thought, well, you know what? I can kind of get past that for the time being. So I let that. I decided to try and dispel it with the dice, which failed. So that was that. In his shooting phase, his Warp Lightning Cannon, one of them got a Strength 8 hit on my Skull Cannon, which was here, and that was destroyed. The other misfired but did nothing, so that was fine. And the Gutter Runners took some pot shots at the Chariot but didn't wound it. The Warlord has the Fellblade, obviously, and he rolled a 1, so he actually lost a wound to the Fellblade. The Warlord's a real concern for me, actually. He's right here on the side of the flank, and Nat's trying to overload this side of the board. The Warlord's a real worry for me, because I know he's got the Fellblade. It's an open tournament competition. So that means he's strength 10, causes d6 wounds, and ignores armor, obviously strength 10, and also reroll ward save. So this guy could easily take out my Demon Prince. So he is public enemy number 1, and he has to go. So yeah, that's the end of Nat's turn 1. He's taken out the Skull Cannon, and he's got the Howling Warp Gale off and prevented flying. Okay, so my movement phase then. Everything is too far away to make credible charges, so I've not decided to charge with anything. On this side of the board, I'm obviously concerned about the Hellpit Abomination. I need my Chariot to be making a charge, otherwise it's not useful. And I need to protect this Skull Cannon, especially as I just lost one over here. This guy needs to take out at least one of these Hellpits. So what I've decided to do here, it's dangerous because of this Warp Lightning Cannon, but I've decided to kind of cluster everything together so that this Hellpit can't make it into contact with any of these units. Whichever way he goes, he will just clip the beasts before hitting any of the units. So I'm using the beasts as a wall against this Hellpit. And sort of moving forwards. This charge here is slightly above average on the dice roll, so I'm hoping he might sort of be tempted to lumber towards me, and then I might get into him. But we'll see what happens there later. Over here, this unit has Halberds and the Banner of Eternal Flame. So this guy is welcome to come and try his luck, because he'll get absolutely pasted if he does. I've moved the beasts up here. Concerned about a charge here, so I've left a good distance. There's also a potential charge here, but you know what? Beasts are really tough, and that's why they're in this army. So I'm thinking to myself, well, you know, there's a possibility that he'll make a charge. There's possibility here, possibility here. He might try something over here, but they're all quite long. He might get 1 or 2 through, but I'm thinking my army's pretty tough and will probably handle it. The drones, of course, Howling Warp Gale means that they can't fly, so they're reduced to movement 1, so they're marching 2 inches. That was quite depressing. And I've brought these Furies. I'm walking up here. I'm thinking this distance is too great, so I'm thinking I might be able to use them as redirectors in the next turn, even though they're only travelling across the ground. And this unit can't do anything useful right now, so they're just kind of hanging out back here. Demonic Mount is kind of moving forwards, keeping in the middle for now, see what he can do later. I'm not really sure what to do with him at this point in the game, so I'm just keeping him back. And that's the end of my move. Oh, and the Demon Prince is making a beeline to be within spellcasting range of this guy. He's got bullseye written all over him. So that's the end of my movement phase. Okay, so this is the end of my turn 1. Good roll on the magic. I got a 5 and a 4 on the dice, which gave me a nice a nice advantage when it came to spell casting. Nobody channeled, and I must admit I forgot the winds of magic effect on Nat. But it would have been the Dark Prince Thirst, I think it is, number 9. Probably wouldn't have done very much anyway, so never mind that. What did I do? I cast Spirit Leech on the Warlord with, I think I put 3 dice into it. I know that Nat's only got 5, so I'm thinking to draw all of his dice out with 1 spell. There's no point in him putting 4 dice into dispelling it. It would only leave him with 1. Or even if he put 3 dice into it, then he's risking 3 dice in level 4 against 3 dice in level 4. That's dicey. So hey, dicey. So I'm thinking Nat will probably dispel that, and he did, so that was fine. Then I cast the Curse of Lenif on the Warlord, took off 1 wound, so that's progress. So the Warlord's already down to 2 wounds, and he's still quite a way away over the board, so that's fine. And then I cast Glittering Robe on the Warriors, just in case those Plague Monks make that long charge. But it failed on 3 dice. Which was depressing. Only needed an 8 on 3 dice and didn't make it, but never mind. 2 Furies were killed by the Sinister Statue, and that was it. Didn't do anything to the beasts. And this Hellpit Abomination here took 2 wounds from the flaming attacks of the Skull Cannon. Also, because it's been hit by flaming attacks, it can't come back to life if as and when it finally gets killed. And that was the end of my turn. Okay, so Nat's movement phase. The A-Bomber's heading towards the beast and has just missed out, as I'd hoped. But even if he'd got in, I'm pretty confident this unit of beasts can deal with him, so that's fine there. The Rat Dart has moved up, trying to make itself useful later on, perhaps block a charge or something like that. The Gutter Runners are coming around the back here and are trying to sort of grind away with some poison shots on the Chariot over here. But that doesn't really concern me very much. It's going to take them a long time to get through that toughness 5, 3+ arm save, 5+ ward save, so I'm okay with that. The slaves here have made a charge at the beasts. Makes sense, can't march in a river anyway, so he might as well try a speculative charge, but failed it, so that's fine. Warp Lightning Cannon obviously stay where they are. He's done a good job here with a double charge. Clan Rats down here, Plague Monks just here, just powering through that river into the beasts here. Now this is going to be a real test for the beasts. Beasts are nasty, nasty, nasty things to go up against. They've got a list of special rules as long as your arm. -1 to hit because the Demons of Nurgle. 4+ regeneration. No flank bonuses if you charge them on the flank or the rear. Toughness 5. They can issue and accept challenges. They are horrid. But so is this. This unit's got the Plague Banner in it, so he can, if he wishes to, reroll hits and wounds. But will he activate the Plague Banner? It's a 1 use only. Well, we'll have to wait and see. But one thing that Nat's done, and I think was a mistake, was because he's come across here with these Clan Rats, even if the Plague Monks manage to beat the beasts, he's blocked his own overrun off. His overrun here, because the Clan Rats are in the way of the Plague Monks, so yeah, I'm not sure about that. Over here, the slaves declared a charge against these Furies. They wouldn't have actually clipped the Demon Prince. They'd have overran if they'd have caught them into the path of the drones. So that was, again, a calculated risk. They might make it in, but if they didn't, I could march block. And even if they did, it wasn't the end of the world. So they failed anyway. Didn't really care about that. The Warlord was the biggest worry. He actually declared a charge against the Furies, and if he'd have caught it, he'd have overran into the Demon Prince. That would have been disastrous. But it was a long charge. It was a calculated risk. He did fail it. He's ended up in the trees, which is bad news for him because he's obviously within the range of a death spell now, and even if he doesn't die, the trees will attack him as well, so that's not gone so well for him. Clan Rats have moved up here, and then obviously you've got the Poison Wind Mortars around here as well. And I think that's that's it. That's the end of Nat's movement phase. Okay, so this is the end of Nat's turn. He's rolled a 6 and a 3 on the magic, so he's got 9. I did manage to channel though, and he didn't, so it's 7 dice against 9. He's cast 9 dice against 7. He's cast Wither on the beasts in an attempt to punch through them, but I've dispelled that. Put all 7 dice into that. Can't afford to have that happen, which has left him free to cast Howling Warp Gale, which again grounds these drones and the 1, 2, 3 Furies. But I think to myself, well, what I want this guy to do is take out him. He's still at quite a distance, and I figured what I can do is I can charge in here, get him in combat with this unit, and that's going to mean the Furies can kind of come this way, block him, and that gives him 2 turns of fighting this unit. The Warriors will obviously wade in as well. So I'm thinking he doesn't need to fly right now. And even if they did fly, they probably wouldn't make it unless they were going on the flank of this unit. But then that just allows him to come wading in here. So I'm kind of thinking I'll accept Howling Warp Gale because it won't get in my way that much. So I decided not to use a scroll on that. And that was the end of that one. The Warp Lightning Cannon here got a strength 10 hit on my Chaos Chariot. So Warp Lightning Cannons are having a field day at the moment. They've taken out a Skull Cannon over here earlier and now a Chaos Chariot here. I did want to see how the Chaos Chariot would do. It's the first time I've used one, but I'm still convinced that it will be very good because, you know, it's got a bucket load of strength 5 hits on it and a 3+ armor save, and it's core. It's ridiculous. So that's really good. The other Warp Lightning Cannon misfired, rolled a 5, and hit nothing because it scattered. Hit strength 10, but strength 10 on nothing. Oh, the shot that took out the chariot also hit this Skull Cannon as well, but this Skull Cannon was saved on its ward save. 2 Plague Wind Mortar shots over here. Both did nothing. And then in combat over here, the Plague Furnace did 6 impact hits, which caused 3 wounds on the beasts, but 2 were saved by regeneration. The beasts, one issued a challenge which left 2 to fight the units. I think the beasts had been damaged earlier by the Sinister Statue, which is why 1 has disappeared. And I couldn't believe it. The beasts between them, 2 beasts, total 4 attacks, double 1 plus 1 for each beast. And didn't even hit. Could not believe it. And then there were 8 hits on the Wrecking Ball. But the beast that issued a challenge managed to kind of save the day. The beasts in the end, because there's no flank bonuses and all the rest of it, the beasts only lost combat by 2 or 3 points. So one of those guys is down to 1 or 2 wounds. So yeah, they actually held. Wonderful. And then he reformed at the end of combat to take the Plague Furnace out of contact with his Clan Rat unit, and that was the end of that turn. So the beast in that challenge really held the line for us there. Yeah, that's the end of Nat's turn. Okay then, so this is my movement phase. These beasts have charged at this A-bomb here, so that's in quite a bit of trouble now. These Furies going to take out this Rat Dart. I'm thinking I can smash through it, overrun, and then perhaps come this way for the Warp Lightning Cannon so that it can stop taking pot shots at my my cannon and other potential targets later. The Chaos Warriors have charged this unit of Plague Monks here, but because of the angle that they're at, they're only able to just about close the door, and I've made such a stupid mistake here because I've thought to myself, well, I don't know what to do with these Furies yet, they're still grounded, so I'll just keep them in behind here. Stupid, 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 because that means that I can't reform into this space, and I'm limiting my own attacks here later on. Oh, I can't believe I did that. The Demon Prince has come into combat as I'd planned, and he's going to join these super tough beasts. Obviously, I didn't mention at the end of last turn. Some people might be thinking, well, how did they survive? A lot of strength 3 attacks here, a lot of toughness 5 here, wounding on 6s, -1 to hit, and regeneration, so they just endure. So yeah, I'm thinking a bit of thunder stomp in there. Let's see what happens here. The demonic mount exalted heroes come around the side here. I'm thinking I can try and take out this warp lightning cannon, maybe go hunting for a few poison wind mortars. And this guy's really useful. You know, he comes with static and active combat points, so that's great because he's a BSB as well, and he's got a nice armor kit there. He's 1+ armor save. I think he's got a single reroll. I think he's got the Luckstone, and he's got the Talisman of Preservation, Mark of Tzeentch, who's got a 3+ ward save, and then he's also got the third eye, so he can reroll ward saves of 1, so he's virtually indestructible. And then the drones have just sort of shuffled along a bit over here. These Furies are now blocking the path of this Warlord, so he's going to have to close the door on them, and then he's going to end up overrunning here, or standing still, and then he's going to have to spend a turn coming this way before he goes after the Demon Prince. So movement's going fairly well. The cannon as well has gone 7 inches and is lining up for a shot on this Hellpit Abomination here, and that's the end of my movement turn 2. Okay, so end of my turn. I've rolled a 9 on the Winds of Magic, another 5 and 4, so that's great. Gives me a number more power dice than my opponent has dispel dice, so very pleased about that. He dispelled Spirit Leech from my Demon Prince onto his Warlord. He rolled 15 on 3 dice to dispel, so that was impressive. But then I cast the Caress of Lenith on the same target, and I miscast. The miscast result was a detonation, which killed 3 clan rats and wounded a beast. So one of these beasts, I think, is now down to 1 wound. But the damage from the spell managed to kill the Warlord, so I was perfectly happy to accept that. That was also a spell cast at a unit in the forest, so that went into a Feeding Frenzy and took out a Fury and 3 slaves over here. So all in all, Warlord's dead over there. That's a very successful magic phase. Perfectly happy with that. In combat, the Hellpit Abomination here rolled an Avalanche of Flesh, which caused me to take 3 initiative tests. Initiative of Beasts is very low, and I took 3 wounds there. But it didn't manage to wound me. And I did 4 wounds on the A-bomb. I think the Avalanche of Flesh has 2d6 automatic hits at strength 6 or something like that. But he rolled quite badly, yeah, he didn't manage to wound me. I did 4 wounds on the Hellpit over here. I actually did 8, but he saved half of them. And it passed on its stubborn leadership, so that was that. This Skull Cannon took out this Hellpit here. It had 4 wounds left. It's flaming shots, and I managed to roll a 5 on how many wounds. Of course, that's the end of him. The Plague Furnace in combat misfired, and it wounded a couple of its own crew from its I forget what it's called. It's the swinging gassy attack thing. I won combat by quite a considerable margin, but he's obviously steadfast. He's got loads of ranks, and the Grey Seer is within range of this unit here, so he passed, and the monks are unbreakable. And I've then reformed, but obviously, as I mentioned before, the beasts are in my way here. But the Demon Prince has done quite a bit of damage on this unit. He's got the Sword of Striking, so he's hitting on 2s, he's wounding on 2s, and he's Thunder Stomping as well. So that's quite ugly over there. And that was the end of my turn, I think. Oh, and the Furies beat this unit of Giant Rats here, which fled but outran them. So yeah, I think it's been quite a successful turn, really. The Warlords, obviously, the real victory there, and also this A-bomb here. So yeah, my opponent also hasn't elected to use the Plague Banner, and I really think he perhaps should have done earlier to punch through this unit, but that is how it was. Okay, so on to Nat's movement phase then. The giant rats that were here have continued to flee and have fled off the board. The clan rats have now made this charge onto the flank of this unit of beasts here. The clan rats with the grace here continue to sort of linger around the back. Obviously, the Demon Prince is a significant concern for the grace here. I think this unit has actually charged a Fury, the one remaining Fury that was here, and that's fine. And the slaves here, I think, declared a charge against the drones, didn't make it, or maybe they marched, one or the other. In either case, these two units are quite eager to get into one another, so that'll happen at some point. And that's the end of a very, very brief movement phase. Obviously, the gutter runners here as well, continuing to pop shot over here. And that's it. Okay, so just consulting my notes here, I've realised what's happened with these slaves. They've attempted to march and failed a double leadership test to march. So they rolled an 11, then a 12 to march, so they're not going very far. One slave here took a dangerous terrain test, failed, doesn't matter. And then into the magic phase. So Nat had another fairly poor magic phase, so I'm being fairly lucky here. I'm rolling slightly above average and Nat's rolling slightly below average. This time he's rolled a 5 and a 1. He's cast Wither on the warriors, which I dispelled, and then he cast the Cloud of Corruption. Obviously Wither is designed to take down their toughness. Then he was going to cast... I think it was Plague, I think was what he was planning on doing, which is toughness tests. But anyway, that was that. So he cast Cloud of Corruption on this unit, and I decided to use my scroll at this point because didn't want to lose the impetus here. I was winning at the time, so that was fine. Warp Lightning Cannon did nothing against this BSB here, saved on his amazing ward save. The other Warp Lightning Cannon popped off a shot against the drones and caused 1 wound. The Plague Wind Mortar did nothing against the drones, and then the other Plague Wind Mortar caused 2 wounds on the drones. So drones seem to be a target over here, and he's caused a total of 3 wounds. The gutter runners continue to shoot at the cannon, which continued to save, so that's fine. Combat over here was ridiculous. The slaves overperformed massively and inflicted 8 wounds on the beasts. It was unbelievable. But the Help It underperformed somewhat and inflicted a couple more wounds itself. The beasts attacked back, managed to drop the A-bomb, so that's the main objective there. But lost combat overall, and this beast is down to 1 wound here. He's not going to survive very much longer. But the A-bomb's gone, so I'll settle on that. Over here, the combat was won, so the clan rats broke, and the Demon Prince pursued and caught them, which is setting up this bunker unit that has the Grey Seer and the Chieftain in it, somewhat. And this beast, by the way, reformed. Obviously, lots of combat going on here, but these guys are unbreakable while this thing still exists. So that was that. I had a couple of wounds from the sinister statue, I think, on the beasts. And that was the end of that turn. Okay, minor correction on that last clip. I misunderstood my own notes. I had said that the warp lightning cannon here took out a wound on the drones. That's not right. It misfired. So it wasn't one wound on the drones. It was a misfire result of a one, so it blew up. So that's why that's not there. Also, apologies because we forgot to take the photograph for the end of the movement phase. So we've got movement and turn all in one image here. So let's go through the movement first. The Demon Prince has charged this bunker unit here, and obviously Nat's not going to flee there because the Demon Prince is quite close to him and much faster than him, so he's likely to just get slaughtered if he does. So he's thinking challenge with the champion, then challenge with the chieftain, then finally the Grey Seer. Maybe get a couple of static res combat points. He might survive, but it's unlikely at this point. The Furies have come over here to tackle this Warp Lightning Cannon that was there in the movement phase, but you can see that the Skull Cannon has managed to take it out later on, so they're going to be quite useless. Obviously, this Skull Cannon, it can't march, and it can't outmaneuver these units. And it was basically a choice between running a chariot into the front of a big unit of slaves, which would do almost nothing to the slaves, or taking a shot and then leaving it to it, to its demise. And that's basically what I did. The drones got into combat with this unit of slaves, and this is going to be a combat that takes ages, and everybody knows it, and that's fine. And then the Furies that were here and the Exalted Hero both made it into a poisoned wind mortar each over here. So in my turn, I rolled a 7 on the Winds of Magic, which was the Eye of the Storm in the normal rulebook, but in the Legions book, that means that the mark of my general is in Ascendancy. So that was Nurgle, because he's got the mark of Nurgle. Rock Glorious Rock, but that did nothing. We both channeled, so I've got 9 dice, Nat's got 6. I cast Soul Blight onto this unit because this is the main obstacle at the moment, and it is crumbling. But I thought, you know what, let's just get that in there. Nat realised the value of that and used all of his dispel dice. He hasn't reformed. Reforming is difficult over here because he can't get out of combat with these beasts. So he's putting his attacks forwards into the beasts as much as sideways, and I think that's wrong, because they're tougher and they've got better saves. So, actually no, they don't have better save, they have the same save against Strength 3, but even still, I do think that was a mistake. I also cast Doom and Darkness on the Seer's units, because obviously if I reduce his leadership, then the leadership bubble becomes less effective. Nat understood the value of that and used his Dispel Scroll. You already know the Warp Lightning Cannon took out was taken out by the Skull Cannon, and then the single beast was destroyed by slaves as expected. A couple of wounds over here by the Sinister Statue, which we've put back in its correct place. The Plague Furnace has taken quite a bit of damage. 4 wounds from the beasts and 1 wound from one of these Chaos Warriors here that's not in combat with any Plague Monks. But the rats remain unbreakable because it's still there on 1 wound. The Furies took out a poisoned wind mortar, but the other poisoned wind mortar was actually zapped by the Sinister Statue, and that meant that this guy here, this Exalted Hero, ended up sort of standing still, so he's not able to overrun into combat here. But as it would turn out, this combat would be a 4-4 draw because the Demon Prince would absolutely demolish the unit champion. But then Nat's got 3 ranks and BSB, so 4-4 there. And this was just a general grind over here. So that's the end of that turn. So Nat's movement phase then, not a lot that can be done. Most units are locked in combat over here, so the only thing he's done is he's double charged this skull cannon over here. Some of the models fell off, but didn't clear those up, sorry about that. And that's the end of Nat's movement phase. Okay, so here we are at the end of the turn then. Nat's rolled a 6 and a 4, so he's got 10 power dice, and then he's also channeled 2. So he actually has 12 power dice. I managed to channel 1 myself, so I have 7 dispel dice, but he still outnumbers me by 5 dice. He's cast Wither on these Warriors of Chaos, but I'm thinking to myself at this point, well, you know what? There's not a lot that's going to be able to engage with them now. You know, this over here is Strength 3. Basically, everything is Strength 3 on the board. So, given how many dice he's got, I kind of have to let that through, and I did. He cast Cloud of Corruption with the Plague Priest here, but he failed to cast it actually, so no more there. And then he cast Plague on this depleted toughness unit, which I dispelled. The Skull Cannon was destroyed in combat here, obviously by just sheer static resolution. So they reformed, and very pathetically, not a single wound was caused on the Plague Furnace, so the Plague Monks remain unbreakable. Over here, the Chieftain issued a challenge to the Demon Prince and was demolished. But the Demon Prince actually lost combat, I think, by 2 points. So he's taken 2 wounds from combat resolution. And the slaves have passed their leadership against the drones. They're continuing to die slowly over there. And that represents the end of Nat's turn. Okay, so a photo here without Nat showing us his backside is certainly an improvement. What has happened here? Well, the Furies have come across this way, just in case they can be useful in some way later on. Swooped the full 20 there. The Furies that took out the Poison Wind Mortar here have now lined up here, facing this way. I do expect this unit to be destroyed this turn, which will make the Plague Monks breakable. If they flee, they're going to have to take dangerous terrains. If I don't catch them, and then later on, if they don't rally, which I wouldn't expect them to, I can then charge them with this fast unit here and catch them and kill them. The Exalted Hero with his Demonic Mount has gone into combat here because the Demon Prince has been suffering a little against the static combat res here. So I'm thinking, you know, he can provide flank, charge, BSB, and then he'll kill a couple of rats in the process. And that's the end of a fairly short movement phase. Okay, so end of my turn then. I'd rolled a 6 and a 4 in the magic phase, so again another good magic phase. So I must be conscious that this battle report is not entirely representative of just how good the magic in this army will be. My ward save is now fantastic all over the army, but it's not really relevant at this stage. I cast Soul Blight on this unit here, just to be sure that I punched through them. You can see that that ended up being successful. I also cast Glittering Robe on this unit. That was probably a bit silly as it wasn't necessary. Now I did actually miscast and took out one warrior in the process. That was, I cast Doom and Darkness on this unit of slaves here as well. Again, that was probably unnecessary. Need to think about that, getting carried away a little bit. Anyway, each with 3 dice. The miscasts were unlikely, perhaps an unnecessary risk. The Demon Prince took out two wounds off the Seer and then thunder stomped him 6 times. The excuse me, the exalted hero did his bit against the unit. The unit broke and was caught. The drones were beaten by the slaves, and because the Doom and Darkness was so low and the Seer was dead, obviously I chose those combats so that the Seer broke first. They were beaten. Slaves, I think, took out a drone from the Cornered Rats rule. And that was it. That was the end of the game. And Nat at this point accepted that that defeat was inevitable. Took away he's actually removed his slaves at this point, but yeah, that was it. I wanted to be sure that this army would be brutal. I thought it would be, and it turned out that it was. So I am very much looking forward to taking it to the tournament next month. I am going to try and get a game against one of the guys downtown, see how it fares against something else. I think the only thing that I have question marks about in this army is these drones. They spent a long time over here just kind of buzzing around doing nothing. They are susceptible to Howling Warp Gale, but I suppose how often am I going to come up against that in the tournament? Other than that, I thought everything in this was solid. So yeah, that was the end of a fairly brutal game. If you have comments, do please let me know. Interested to know your thoughts. Anything I did right, anything I did wrong. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye-bye.